Hey there, and welcome to another episode of your favorite libertarian. In today's episode, we're going to be continuing our series on the Triarc rifle that we started in the last video. The last video was on the lengthy ordering process and unboxing and my initial impressions just of the rifle itself. Today, we're going to be putting some things on the rifle, such as glass and some other accessories. We're going to be doing that on the famous carpet top, and then we are going to be taking it to the range to test everything out. Besides the things that we're attaching that we're testing out, we're also going to be testing out the rifle itself, the ejection pattern, the recoil impulse, the accuracy of the barrel, etc. All right, time to accessorize. Let's go! Today we'll be installing an angled foregrip, a flashlight, a QD for a sling, a pistol grip, a stock, a sling, and a scope. First we'll take off our existing stock, then we'll put on our new stock. It's just that simple. For my mod light, I'm going to install it as close as I can get to the very tail end of the muzzle device. I also am installing my QD slightly in front of that, and with this setup, I don't have to worry about any rubbing when the sling is attached. See? Nice. Installing my angled foregrip, installing it. Yeah! While I'm working on this, here's what I've installed so far. A Mod Light OKW on an Arisaka 45-degree mount, a BCM QD plate, a BCM angled foregrip in OD green, a Magpul SL stock in OD green, and soon we'll be done installing the K2 Plus grip by Magpul, also in OD green. Hey, do you guys want an in-depth overview and test of this optic? If you do, click on the link above. Now I'm just going to remove the top rail, witness mark the screws that are holding the spacer onto the optic and the mount, put some Vibratite on the screws for the mount, and clamp it down. There's no torque spec to be found in the manual or online, so I'm just doing it as tight as I think I need to do it, with some Vibratite on the threads, and I'm witness marking it to make sure that nothing's going to be walking out as I'm shooting it, pushing the optic as far forward as I can on the pick rail so that it doesn't slide back or jostle around under recoil. Well, I installed everything I wanted to install on this rifle. Now I'll give you some fancy B-roll footage and then we'll hit the range. Enjoy. Tap. Holy crap. Pretty good too. .77 grain at 200 yards. Let's see if I can zero this. Right now it's shooting at the very bottom of the so let's try this at 6 clicks up. Yeah, so I think I started these two here.
Yeah, that's what I saw on the scope.
And then I brought it up, I think 6.
Yep.
And then I did another 6, which was here and here.
Okay.
And then those two were the one click down.
Right.
So it's hard to tell.
10 clicks total.
6. It'd be 11.
11. Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I mean that's 200 yards. It's pretty close, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to play with it. I'm gonna try the 69 grain too.
What I found though with the primary arms is once you adjust at 200, when you go to 50, you're gonna end up being a little bit low. With 62 grain.
It's either this or this, and this is actually less expensive than this, so I'll probably end up going with this because this is doing really well. But I'm going to be shooting this right now at 200. The sandbags are falling apart. Alright, so first I zeroed in the optic with Wolf Gold, which is kind of my go-to right now. I have a lot of it. And it started out low, but pretty close to center. All I really did was adjust elevation and got to here. And then I realized that the tip of the chevron is actually the 100-yard zero, and the 50-yard zero is kind of like the armpit of the chevron. So this was shooting with the armpit of the chevron, and then made my adjustment, walked it back down to here, and this is at 50 yards with Wolf Gold. After zeroing with the Wolf Gold, I put another target out at 50 and tried out all these different rounds that I brought. What was weird is that the ones that were sent to me by Triarc, who was that's the company that built the rifle that I have, they actually performed the worst. So TAP was one of the rounds that they sent. It's a 53 grain, which I thought was interesting. 53 grain GMX projectile. This was the biggest group, I think, out of all of them. So that's going to be a no. That's at 50 yards, so no to that. PMC Bronze, 55 grain, 2,900 feet per second muzzle velocity. This one was also a huge group. I think this one might have been even bigger or pretty close to the TAP at 50 yards, so that's a no on that. Then I tried out, you know, keeping it with the smaller grain weights, another 53 grain round, 53 grain VMAX, and this is the Super Performance Varmint. This one did okay. We're looking at rounds touching each other here and here. This one might have been a flyer, so not a bad group here, but this one's insanely expensive, so probably not that. I wanted something with a little heavier round as well, so we're going to say no to that round, and that leaves us with these four. Now, the Frontier I thought would be great because it's a 68 grain round, so it's a heavier round. It's a boat tail hollow point match, so it also will expand on impact. It's also pretty affordable. This is just a little bit more expensive than the green tip, and it's pretty readily available. You can buy in bulk on this, so I was hoping that this would do really well. This did not do very well. It was a pretty big group here. I shot some more just to see if I could have it redeem itself, but it didn't really. So this, unfortunately, did not do well, and I'm not going to go with this for what I'm going to be using for the rifle. That leaves us with these three. This is a 62 grain, 77 grain, and a 69 grain. Here's the group for the 69 grain, which is the Federal. This is the most expensive out of all three of these. This is $35. This one is $31 a box, and this is $13 a box. Depending on where you get, you can get better deals. But this was just at Bass Pro where I got these. So This one, so just poking out there. Then the 77 grain open tip match, which is what everyone said would do amazing, did do amazing. Well within a quarter there. At 50 yards, most of these are touching each other, and I have no complaints on the accuracy or the group that I was able to get with this ammunition at 50 yards. Then we have the green tip. The green tip within a quarter, you know, not touching each other like the other one was, not as many rounds as the other one was, but all these individual groups that I shot were pretty much within a quarter. Just not as impressive as the 77 grain open tip match. Now I find myself in a bit of a quandary because I like all these rounds. All these rounds performed really well. There's a first, second, and third place as far as the groups go. I would say probably first place, second place, third place. As far as the pricing goes, first place, second place, third place. And then as far as being able to go from one round to another without having to adjust zero a whole lot, I would say probably this would be number one, because I have shot both of these in different guns and found that I don't really have to adjust elevation that much between a 55 grain projectile and a 62 grain projectile, especially Wolf Gold and M855. I've just found that there's not a whole lot of adjustment needed, which is really nice because this is a very common round. This is common as well, not as common, but both of these can be bought in bulk for relatively little money compared to what these would be. So that also gives this kind of like a additional point in this scoring. What I found, which was really interesting at 200 yards, is that the 77 grain, while it was zeroed at 50 yards and was pretty solid at 50 yards, it actually was shooting pretty low at 200. At 200 yards, these are the first couple rounds here. And then after, I want to say 11 clicks up, the 77 grain got to here and here. I just put these stickers over it because I wanted to reuse this for a second set of testing. But these more or less are where those other rounds hit for the 77 grain. And that's where I was aiming, obviously. And then after doing that, and adjusting, so I didn't make any more adjustments to the scope after that, I wanted to see where these other rounds were hitting. So the 69 grain and then also the green tip. Shooting the 69 grain, aiming here without any adjustment, I had this round and this round on paper. Obviously a bigger group than here and here, and also higher. I think that has to do with this being a lighter grain and also going faster. This is going almost 3,000 feet per second, and this is going 2,750 feet per second. So let me just double check, see what this is. Yeah, so 2950, 2750, and then the green tip is going real quick at 3,060 feet per second. I shot this as well without making any adjustments to the zero, and this was not even on paper. It was still, I would say, high of the target because it's just going so fast. So going back to what makes the most sense, being able to switch from different grain weights and having more commonality in the zero, I would say that probably the Sierra Match King is closer in velocity to the green tip and would probably be a better pairing, but the accuracy of it, the grouping of it, is not as good as 77 grain. Throwing in a wild card here, the Wolf Gold is really close in velocity to the green tip, similar as far as accuracy goes and grouping goes. And both of these, you know, going back to affordability and being able to stockpile a lot of it, they both are great for that. Did I do all this testing just to pick green tip again? Maybe, I don't know, but there's some data for you. Enjoy. All right, now it's time for my initial shooting impressions. We talked a lot about what rounds we used and how they did. Now we're going to talk about how the rifle did. We were looking at things during our range session like the felt recoil, the ejection pattern, the trigger, making sure nothing was walking loose with all of our witness marks, and of course reliability. If it was feeding rounds, if it was ejecting rounds, if there were any light primer strikes, we're keeping an eye on all of that. So one thing I want to note before we get too far into the gun itself is that one accessory was changed from the beginning of this video. There's a video on it already, and it's on the Cram 7.0 riser. This just gives me better eye relief. It pushes it further back. So full installation video and review on that. Check that out. But that did awesome. That did really well. And the optic, of course, did really well as well. This primary arms, 5 power SLX, ACSS Aurora Reticle Gen 3 Prism Scope. Full review on this as well. Check those out. But for right now, that's pretty much what we're working with. You already know all the accessories from the beginning of the video, so I won't go into that. As far as the recoil, the felt recoil, this longer buffer tube and special buffer and spring did help a lot in reducing the recoil. It was very low recoil impulse, so that was great, as advertised. And then we have the ejection pattern. Let's talk about that. So the reason that you check for the ejection pattern is because it's a good indicator of whether a rifle is overgassed, undergassed, or in that sweet spot. If it's undergassed, you're going to have reliability issues in feeding and ejecting. If it's overgassed, you're going to have longevity issues in unnecessary wear and tear on all of your internals. So what you're looking for is pretty much from 3 o'clock, a little bit south of that, like right there to right here. Typically, if you're running a traditional suppressor that's not a flow-through can, you're probably going to have overgassing when you add that to the system because it's creating more pressure and taking more gases and pushing them back into the system. But this is unsuppressed, and once it is suppressed, it'll have a flow-through technology can, so it shouldn't affect that too much. And I will say right now, this is gassed perfectly. I haven't had any issues with reliability in feeding, ejecting, or any light primer strikes, anything like that. Next, we'll talk about the trigger. The trigger is their enhanced trigger. It's just a mil-spec trigger that's a single stage that is enhanced. So I would say almost no take-up at all. Let's see, apply any pressure, very tiny, see right there, and then it almost surprises you, the break. So very little take up, and then a nice crisp break, and no complaints there. I enjoyed shooting with this trigger. It made it easy to make very accurate shots, and I like the trigger, so we're good there. Also, it's a very inexpensive upgrade if you are looking to build this and you're fine with waiting over a year to get one of these. The trigger is great. And all of the witness marks for everything didn't move. The accessories, for the most part, I didn't Loctite or do anything to. Witness marks are exactly where they're supposed to be, all the way from 53 grain all the way up to 77 grain, and pretty much everything in between. All of it ran flawlessly, no issues there. As far as the rifle itself goes, so far in my very limited initial testing, it gets an A+. But it should get an A+ for the $2,000 and the over a year I spent waiting for it. That was spent not only in my time and patience, but also in what this rifle costs, not including accessories, obviously. While you're enjoying this B-roll of the rifle, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Really helps all the algorithm stuff and helps the channel grow. If you have not yet checked out my Linktree link in the description and in the pinned comment below, you are missing out. Tons of new affiliates from the last time I plugged the Linktree. And if you're looking for anything gun and gear related, or you're looking for anything fitness related, there's something for you in the Linktree. Make sure to check it out, click those links, and help support this channel so I can continue making dope content. And as always, thanks for watching. Stay free, and God bless.